Hello and welcome to a Pavion Case Study, a podcast where we explore the journeys that businesses take to stay on the path to profitability, sustainability, and success for both employees and the people and customers served. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney, and today we are sharing the Children's Home Society of Florida success story. We all know how fast technology changes. Having to keep up with those changes can be a daunting task, especially when you have an IT department that is overwhelmed and unable to focus on strategic initiatives vital for its mission. Recognizing the urgent need for transformation, the Children's Home Society embarked on a monumental journey of data center migration, a project that would redefine its technological infrastructure and operational efficiency. Amidst this endeavor, CHS found a partner and an ally in Ion 24/7, a Pavion company. Through meticulous planning, collaboration, and unwavering commitment, Ion 24/7 seamlessly integrated itself as a crucial partner, providing the expertise and support necessary for CHS to navigate the complexities of modernizing its IT landscape. We'll hear the story from Gary Lewis, Director of IT Infrastructure of CHS, Chris Davis, Chief Technology Officer, Ion 24/7, and Scott Anderton, General Manager of Ion 24/7, of how a partnership forged in innovation and dedication not only revitalized CHS's technological foundation, but also empowered it to fulfill its mission with renewed vigor and efficiency. Excited to have you hear this story. So thank you all for being with me today.
Thank you, Michelle.
Glad to be here.
Looking forward to really getting into this conversation. So, where do we start? Because we have quite the story to tell today. I'm going to start with you, Gary. Can you tell me a little bit about what you do with CHS, what CHS is, and kind of where we start with this collaboration? Fill us in.
Sure. And thank you, Michelle. So I'm Gary Lewis. I'm the Director of IT Infrastructure for Children's Home Society of Florida. I've been with CHS for a little over 9 years now. And during that time, I have done multiple roles within the IT department. So I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And we were facing basically a disaster waiting to happen, which actually ended up happening in August of 2021. And Ion 24/7 actually came to the aid rather quickly and provided services to get us back on our feet, if you would, and then also produced a future state design, which was not only board approved, executive leadership approved, and also the IT department was 100% behind it. So it's been a great journey. We're in a much better place than we were 2 years ago. And I thank Ion 24/7 for the partnership and the collaboration, as well as the commitment to get CHS to where we are today.
So, Gary, can you take me back just a bit because you talked about, connection with Ion 24/7, but how did that actually come to be before we kind of get to the crux of the real important issue that led to this big switchover and success story?
Sure. So in the year 2021, we had some major leadership changes in the IT department. In with the new CIO coming on board, we had actually got an assessment, a professional assessment from Ion 24/7 that really kind of raised a few eyebrows, especially on the board leadership, of how bad the infrastructure really was. Shortly thereafter, in August of 2021, we experienced an outage that lasted 10 days um, for our team members as well as the clients that we serve. So why is that important? The team members that we support in CHS from the IT perspective need access to their resources. And without that access to the resources, the clients suffer. And so it's always been a goal for me personally to make sure that I do everything that I can do. And it runs throughout the IT team as well, that we all give it 100% to ensure that what we do benefits the clients that we serve. Just a little bit of background of CHS. We've been a child welfare organization in the state of Florida for over 121 years. We serve clients in adoptions, foster care, early childhood services, counseling as well as other mental health services. So the work that we do is important in making sure that we have the ability and that our team members have the access to the resources are very, excuse me, very important as well.
And especially so, I mean, we obviously know that all businesses need to be and want to be up and running, but especially when you have the services that you provide in the nonprofit world, it's just so crucial for everybody that you work with to be able to have the success of the services that you offer. So I want to bring you into the mix, Scott. Give me your take as far as the collaboration because, Gary mentioned that there was the assessment done before, and then there was a situation that kind of brought things to a head. And I'm just curious your take on kind of how that progressed.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. Yeah, we at Ion 24/7, we had done some prior IT heavy lifting and assessment work with the new CIO of CHS. So the incoming new CIO kind of walked into a situation that he immediately knew there was some problems in the environment. Uh, and I think he made a super wise decision he needed to get the board of directors on board with how to move forward because he was walking into a ton of risk, operational risk and cybersecurity risk, and he saw it. So what we helped him do with the assessment, there was some trusted relationship in the past. He brought us in for a short engagement to assess the situation and produce what we would call a roadmap, how to get from A to Z with the problem. And we put that roadmap together in such a way that it was very accessible and understandable to the board of directors. So we were able to use business language and risk language and operational language, which I think had been the struggle of the prior leadership in IT at CHS. They could never get the board to fully focus on some of this technical debt that was building up in the business. And so we were able to help the incoming CIO articulate that in this assessment document with good information like return on investment, risk analysis, which is more board member speak, right? So that was well received. And then we were kind of in limbo waiting for what's next. And then this outage happened. And then that drove the point home, and the board started saying to the CIO, we need to go ahead and move. We need to get stuff going and move this project forward. So that's kind of our trusted relationship and how we earn that trust through the assessment phase.
Yeah, absolutely. Because what you were predicting, maybe some potential issues, really was coming to fruition. So, Gary, from your standpoint here, you know that there's some issues here. What were the main challenges that CHS was facing with its IT infrastructure? And then how did those challenges impact the ability for CHS to carry through with its mission?
So, as far as challenges, there was a laundry list. Being a nonprofit, obviously, budget is the number one challenge of any project. Limited funds in technology is not cheap. So there needed to be an efficient and a cost-friendly alternative to what we were currently facing. At the time that we did have the outage, all of our servers were physically located in the State of Florida Resource Center, which is in Tallahassee, Florida, which would be a 8-hour round trip for anybody that would need to actually go to the actual resource center to triage or fix or try to do anything maintenance wise or hardware wise. The other challenge in regards to the servers, it was coined a phrase from my colleague. They were all old enough to go to prom, meaning that they were 15 to 16 years old. They were not patched, which are obviously security flaws. And anytime that one had to be rebooted or reset, we all held our breath because we weren't sure that it would come back up. Operating systems were outdated. Some operating systems were as far as behind as 2008 server, and this is in 2021. So it was a necessity, and as Scott had mentioned, there was no plan for security. There were huge security loopholes, and we're dealing with highly sensitive data, records for clients, families, and children that are federally mandated to be HIPAA protected. So not having that security in place obviously is a huge concern. And I'd say the last challenge was, and this one was a big one, is how do we do all this without cutting resources to our team members? We can't just do a full stop on access to resources, our CHS resources. And that's where I think Chris Davis was a key member of the engineering that provided that resolution to keep processes and access and resources available during a almost full cloud migration, which was huge. And we pulled it off and it was awesome.
Chris, I want to ask you, seeing what seems like a very daunting task or series of tasks to kind of get all this pulled together and functioning to the best of its ability, what are your thoughts kind of being pulled into this and seeing what needs to be done and how to start that journey to get CHS where they needed to be?
Yeah. So the biggest thing is walking through that situation is we take it from the service or the application side. And so we kind of draw a map, right? So what is the services? What are the applications being served to these clients? And then we go backwards, right? And that was the biggest thing with going into this. There wasn't a lot of documentation. I think we had a spreadsheet, Gary, that we started with. And then we started going through stuff. And then I'm like, well, that doesn't exist anymore. What about that? So the documentation was not there. So no one really had an idea how things kind of connected. And, when you bring in a consultant and bring someone in, they kind of have the ability to just kind of dig down, right? Get through all the technical stuff, and they have the time. Where IT departments don't really have that time to go back. You never have a time to document after a project, right? That's why you have to build it into the project. And with this, we just kind of went step by step, server by server, and mapped out exactly what was supporting that. And then in the end, that's when we kind of pulled the assessment together and said, wait, hold on. We actually don't even need all this infrastructure. And then we started just building it for what we needed.
I have to ask you, Gary, was there some trepidation here? Because this is a huge, massive undertaking, right? And you talked about the relationship that you'd already built with ION 24/7. But did you have any thoughts of, how is this going to work as you kind of start going through this process?
Absolutely. The anxiety levels were at peak. I had full confidence in ION 24/7 based on what I had, in conversations with Chris and Scott. However, to Chris's point, there was no documentation. Previous leadership siloed a lot of information. So, as far as mapping networks and seeing, we had 5 or 6 different segmented networks within one main infrastructure. So thinking about kind of simplifying that to a clean, efficient way, definitely trepidation. For reference, before we started, we had over 40 physical host servers in 2 racks. And another 50 or 60 of those were actual virtual machines on those hosts. So we had upwards of 130 plus servers in our environment. After the migration between ION 24/7 and CHS, we're down to 18. 13 of those are in the cloud, and we have 1 rack on premise. And the only reason why we need that is for a legacy financial application that was so old it could not migrate to a cloud environment. So the intent is, in a year to 2 years from now, to remove that and be completely cloud-based.
I wanted to just bring up some bullet points. I think this is a perfect time because you kind of just scratch the surface of downsizing a few things. There are a lot of changes here, but I think it's really important to note before we go any further, just how much was done with this project. So this actually is taken from an email from the CHS CIO. So I think this is pretty amazing for people to hear. We downsized the data center from 130 servers to 18. without significant business impact or losing any CH services. We downsized 135 databases to 8 and 800 plus customized reports to approximately 100. We completely re-engineered the entire infrastructure from the data center to all 28 office locations across the state to 1,200 CHS team members, 80% remote. And of course, this is post-pandemic, right? Because we're talking 2021 when this kind of starts to hit. We rebuilt 95% of our new infrastructure in the cloud. There are significant dollar benefits. The remaining 5% was physically moved from Tallahassee to Orlando with zero hardware cost, zero. We moved a 20-year-old custom-built application, CaseTrack, from similarly aged infrastructure to the cloud. This one even shocked the CIO talking here. We implemented a disaster recovery capability. We implemented cybersecurity awareness training. And as of the 23rd of June, we have been 142 days without one reportable security event. So clearly a lot of benefits that we've seen, and we will talk even more about how this project has been so beneficial on many levels. But Scott, I want to turn back to you. Can you walk us through the process of planning and then executing the data center migration? How did the co-management approach contribute to the success of this project?
Yeah, no, we knew early on, as Gary stated, that the CHS IT team and being part of a kind of a non-for-profit type program, I mean, they didn't have an overabundance of IT people and resources. So for them to do a heavy lift project like this, which was really heavy lifting, they knew that they needed to keep their shop running, keep their constituents happy while we moved a lot of the heavy earth on this project. So we introduced this co-management, process where we actually injected some full-time resources operationally in the project. So while Gary and his team became more of the project management effort, keeping everybody informed and communicated, we were lifting on the operational side. And because it was such a cloud-centric migration, we could build a lot of the architecture and the infrastructure distinct from anything that was going on in the current infrastructure. So we could build a lot of stuff, test a lot of stuff, and that was part of our migration strategy, which Chris put together, and that ended up being just a home run. Because then the cutover we could do in phases instead of a point in time kind of flash cutover where it's like, oh my gosh, it's all going to go over. Is it going to work? We built the environment. We started moving things to it. And then the things that we moved, we had operational people in place to start managing those things until CHS IT internal was ready to take them on.
Chris, I'd like to pull you in the mix here with regard to having things in place and knowing, okay, this is what we want to do. But then the technical side, it's great until it's not, I always say about technology, right? Because clearly there can be some issues and some hiccups. So tell me about that, going through the actual process, having the plan ready to go, but what was it like actually putting things into motion?
I mean, really, sometimes it takes a lot of time and communication for change management, right? Getting that documented in such a way so that you're walking into someone else's environment and you're basically, I'm going to change everything. And we kind of did. So a lot of questions of the why, asking why, going through the conversations with Gary and team, and then putting together a argument, if you want to say, that says, okay, well, this is probably a better way. Like let's take a more simple way of looking at that, identifying where some of the challenges were in the past, and then putting together what is the latest technology or the best approach today. And and not even today, right? What is in the future? And the good thing is that we did just come out of COVID. We're coming through COVID, and that helped out a lot with the simplification and looking at it, because we don't know when that's going to happen again, if it ever will. And we always need to prepare as a business or a nonprofit to be able to move in the office, out of the office at any point, at any time. And that really helped us set a vision or a future state. And that drove a lot of the strategy of the architecture.
I want to pose this to Gary and or Scott. What were the key objectives of the data center migration project and how were they achieved?
Yeah, I think, from a very strategic standpoint, it was lower the operational risk that was clearly present. Um, we actually in the assessment used some common IT assessment tools that would have like a rating scale of like, hey, 5 is a 5 alarm fire. Like this is a really critical thing. You could have a real problem here, and then 1 being kind of a low, your best practice. And there was a lot of 4 and 5 alarm fires in cybersecurity and operations and technology. So clearly that was, get them stable. I think lowering the total cost of IT was another long-term objective, which was accomplished, and then not having these large capital cycles, which come when you build on-premise data centers and on-premise hardware. They last from 5 to 7 years, and then you have to buy new ones. And so every 5 to 7 years, you have this tech debt recycle that the board of directors hates because they got to come up with a lot of capital, which is hard to do in a non-for-profit, right? So that was to get that out, and then to simplify. And there was no blame here. I mean, I think there was good people working in the IT department of CHS for years. It's just the leadership kept changing. They never could get the momentum because the leadership kept changing to the board to get this big tech refresh done, right? So what happens is you end up with an overly complicated environment that just keeps getting piecemeal. Just put one more thing here, one more thing. But that's creating an operational nightmare for somebody else to inherit down the way, that to have to keep up with all that stuff. And that's what we had to stop. We had to peel that back and say, let's simplify this. This is really simple. I mean, this is there's a handful of applications that need to be served up, a handful of data sets that need to be protected, and let's simplify it. And that was a big part of the architecture. So those were the main things. It was really neat because usually you do an assessment and you see those things and business people understand those, but then the big question is, that's going to cost me $1 jillion. Now hit me with the other foot's going to fall. It's going to be $1 jillion, right? And in this case, we actually had the double win because we could actually lower the total cost and save them money in the cloud migration. So it was kind of once the board saw that, it made sense, right?
So Gary, I have to ask you, and I talked about, was there trepidation? And admittedly, you said yes, of course, because I mean, this was a huge undertaking. You said that you trusted Ion 24/7, and based on the familiarity that you had working with the company before, you were ready to take that plunge with Ion 24/7. But during the course of the progress of this major overhaul, it's got to be so stressful. And you did mention that. So first of all, were you surprised maybe at the flow of the process of what was happening and then seeing the benefits? And I really do want to emphasize the benefits because we're on the other side of this now and it really is a success story. So can you talk about maybe the evolution of your thought process going through this and then seeing that light at the end of the tunnel? And now here we are and having all of the benefits of this successful project that's now complete.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think going through the process, one of the major milestones that we had achieved with the partnership with Ion 24/7 was we actually had 3 separate environments all connected to each other and communicating. We had our state resource center in Tallahassee connected to our Orlando data center, and then also connected to the cloud. And ensuring that all the accountability of and the availability of all the resources were taking place during this transition was a huge milestone. So seeing that connect right off the bat was one of the things that kind of put me at ease a little bit. I used to walk around with a box of Band-Aids, if you would, with these devices, and current state, those Band-Aids are gone. So, high availability, safety, secure, redundancy. We've got a disaster recovery program in place. We've got a good partnership with Ion 24/7. as far as doing our infrastructure support. So it's really been, the long hours, long days, even longer nights, 100% worth it. And I'm glad that we can look back at it now. It's been a little over 3 years, about 2 years, that we've been in full swing. And life has been, and I'm not going to use the word easier, it's been a little bit more simple for me in regards to supporting the infrastructure, where then I can focus on other things with my role, for our team members in the organization and making things even better, which before I had no time. I was always putting out fires. So that is a huge benefit, because that doesn't just benefit my well-being, it benefits the organization, which then trickles down to the clients that we serve, which is really the main goal for me.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the big picture, especially being in the nonprofit world, the services that you provide for such a precious targeted group of people. So I want to ask you this though, because the proof really is in the pudding, right? So how did the improvements in IT infrastructure translate into tangible business benefits for CHS? And how were these benefits communicated to CH leadership as well?
So I think right off the bat, a huge savings in monthly expenses. The State Resource Center is not a very cheap piece of real estate to have devices in. And quite honestly, what we were paying monthly for that actual co-location, we don't even come close to it with our current environment as far as our monthly costs go. So, efficiency, the dollars that we're saving for the organization, and the time that we're saving, that would typically be spent on troubleshooting or triaging 15-year-old equipment with even older operating systems. So again, it's been very beneficial for us in freeing up some resources so that we can then focus on other future state efficiencies and products and services that we can provide for our team members throughout the organization.
Yeah, Scott, I'd love to hear your take on things because you're seeing the same results, but through different eyes and a different view. So, what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, no, Gary's right on, and I think I have a relationship as well with the CIO, and uh, I think the CIO, really was looking into the other business departments, because they do great work. I mean, for the children of the state of Florida, and he was disheartened coming in as a leader, seeing a bunch of requests for innovation and business process improvement among the other operational areas in the company. But he was having to tell them, we have no time in IT to support those things because we just, we're putting our fingers in holes in the wall to try to stop the leaks, right? So, I don't know how to put dollar value on this, but I would say that there's a portion of the CHS IT team now, specifically the CIO, that can be more strategic. And I know that's part of maybe one of the reasons he's not on this call is he's leading several business process improvement activities with software applications and integrations. And that's where the value of IT is long term. It's creating business process improvement, and innovation. And now this team is able to get to some of that work, which really benefits the business, while yet Gary is running the infrastructure now in a very steady state, in a very trusted state, which was not the case prior. I mean, the business didn't even know if they would come in and email would be working or not. Now it's very rare they have an outage. Now they're starting to talk about business process improvement and innovation. They're not saying, is Gary's team going to be able to keep the servers up? So there's a huge win for the business long term, and that's made us very proud to be part of the project.
So, Gary, what are CHS's plans moving forward in terms of leveraging its improved IT infrastructure? How do you envision the partnership with ION 24/7 as well, evolving into the future?
Sure. Well, I definitely think that the future of our partnership will continue to prosper as it has been over the last 3 years. And I also think that, coming down in the future state, as I had mentioned previously, we do still have a small on-premise solution and environment that we would like to eliminate and be 100% in the cloud, which would then free up more resources, more capital for the organization. And then also it would free up more time because while it's great having most of the environment in the cloud, there's still that little piece that does require some maintenance and some attention. And there still is a little bit of anxiety, especially for some of the applications on Server 2008, whether or not they're going to reboot when they're supposed to or come back up. So eliminating that would be great. And to Scott's point, now we can focus on the business process, being more involved in the other functional teams and implementations for technology and offering solutions that will make the jobs a little bit more simple for folks in the field, as well as the back end staff. In having that secure and highly available is something that we're looking to continue and build on.
I would love to close with some final thoughts, key takeaways from all of you. Maybe starting with you, Chris, from the technical side, because I mean, clearly this is a tech issue. I mean, so many parties involved, but would love to hear your take maybe first as we go forth with this.
The main thing is, I mean, this is a great success story. But the sad thing is we keep on running into this. We keep on running into more organizations that are in the same situation. So that's it. I mean, the solutions are out there, and with that, we take some time and some intentionality, and everyone can have a success story like this to not have a fear of the technology. There's always a way through it.
Chris makes a good point, and I think that's one of the most beneficial things having his team and ION 24/7 as a partner to collaborate on things is because it's their job to stay ahead of future technology and know the solutions that they can provide their customers. Being a customer and being in the weeds and trying to Scott's point, keep the water from leaking all over the place, you get blinders on and you don't necessarily see what could be done in the future state, or you don't have the knowledge of that. And that's where it's come really into play with ION and Chris in particular, is that he offers solutions that even I am a nerd. I'm sorry, I'll admit it, that I don't know about. And short, looking into it, I'm like, it's an aha moment. So that has been very beneficial. And again, yes, a success story. Was it stressful? Absolutely. But I'm glad that we all persevered through it and got to where we are today.
Yeah, no, I mean, this was a really neat project because we were able to participate from the assessment and roadmap phase, and then CHS trusted us with the delivery phase. And in fact, now we're in an operational agreement with CHS where we're kind of the tier 2 support for some of this cloud infrastructure to make sure that everything is being developed going forward and set up the proper way. So from strategy to delivery of a project to now we're an operational partner, that's ideal, but that doesn't happen without a lot of trust. And trust is earned, through, and you don't earn trust through just doing everything right. We've had problems on the project. We've had certain technologies that didn't perform properly. We had to tweak. But Gary and the CIO, help point us to the right priority, and they're not afraid of picking up the phone and saying, hey, we need attention on this. And we come to the attention. So as long as that trust is there and, it doesn't have to be perfect, and it wasn't perfect, but we kept moving forward. And we're all proud to be part of the end product because this is a company that does wonders for the state of Florida and the children of the state of Florida. And for us to be able to be part of a really cool project that saved them money and is now delivering new, business process opportunities that can make them even a better organization. It's good to be able to see that all the way through. In the IT world, oftentimes we're brought in to do one specific thing, and then they pay you and say, okay, you're done. We'll take it from here. But this, we've been able to see the whole thing, which has been really, really fun.
Yeah. And getting back to at the beginning of the podcast, talking about, of course, every business is important for them to be as successful as they can be with what they're doing. But when you have such a precious group like the one that CHS is working with, it really is, it's heartwarming to see how much you're able to do now, and really excited to see what happens with you and the new IT system in the future to benefit even more people. So there you have it. As we bring our discussion to a close, it's evident that the collaboration between the Children's Home Society and ION 24/7 really exemplifies the power of partnership and perseverance in overcoming technical challenges in many organizations, not just this one, from the intricate planning stages to the tangible business benefits realized. This journey showcases the transformative impact of innovative solutions and shared dedication. And on behalf of our viewers, I extend sincere gratitude to Gary, Chris, Scott, the entire teams at CHS and ION 24/7 for sharing their insights and experiences. And if you're looking for a partner to support, inspire, and help propel your organization toward greater efficiency, resilience, and success, look no further than ION 24/7, a Pavion company. I'm your host, Michelle Dawn Mooney. Thank you so much for joining us on this enlightening journey. Thank you all for being here today. Really enjoyed this conversation, a special success story. So appreciate your time today.
Thank you, Michelle.
Thanks, Michelle.